So there were a group of men late one evening having a glass of beer around a table, and one man said, "I'll bet each of you $10 that I can write a story with just 6 words." And they said, "No, you can't." He said, if you will take me up on this bet, I bet I can write a story in 6 words." And they said, "All right, we bet you can't." He wrote, "For sale, baby shoes, never worn." Ernest Hemingway won his bet. This is a true story. All the men paid him a quick $10. Now, some of you would say, that's a horrible story to start with, for sale baby shoes, never worn. But like any story, it's flexible. Some people think, oh my goodness, there was never a baby to wear those shoes. Or some of us could say, hey, listen, at the baby shower, Aunt Bonnie and Aunt Becky brought the same pair of shoes for that baby, and the baby can only wear one pair, so we're going to have to sell a pair of shoes. You see how flexible a story is? You can bring to it an interpretation in any way. The power of a good story is that it presents the opportunity to hear information in a new and different way. Stories have metaphors and allegories that have the capacity to speak to you and me. They have shaped our values, our principles, and our identities. Consider the many stories in the Bible. How countless. We all know Noah's Ark, right? We all know about the wine, the water turning to wine. Those are rich stories talking about abundance, that even in the bleakest of times, there will be life, there will be enough for all. This morning, I intend to share a tale with you from our Universalist heritage, so that you too might better understand our ancestry and our place in the dream of radical inclusivity that began in the hearts and minds of humans who have long since passed. So the role of the minister is to nurture, comfort, motivate, maybe add a little discomfort on occasion if I challenge your assumptions. But also, it's to inform the congregation and to hold a mirror up to you and reflect on who you are, what part of this lineage of Unitarian Universalism you are part of. One who speaks from this pulpit is also responsible for deepening that understanding of what it means to participate in a Unitarian Universalist community. That is, you need to realize that we are part of a continuum. Just like I mentioned to the children, one day they too will be where you are. It's not about us in today's culture, our battles for social justice, though that's pretty important, and many people will say they're Unitarian Universalists because of our many opportunities to speak out against social injustice. It is also about carrying on the work of our Unitarian Universalist ancestors, the early nurturers of those who also had a desire for a better world. Hopefully, the story I'm about to tell you has the ability to feed our thirst for understanding, for belonging, for growing, for deepening our interest, and perhaps motivating us to step up and keep the values of our beloved Unitarian Universalists alive, especially in a politically oppressive environment that seems to get more difficult every day. Our story begins like this. Long, long ago, approximately 1770, when North America was comprised of just 13 organized colonies, and of course, the first Americans who were here. At that time, there lived a man named John Murray. However, John Murray and his wife Eliza lived across the pond, as they say, in England. They were very religious people. John preached in church every Sunday. In his church, based on Calvinism, a faith tradition born of the Protestant Reformation that included the idea of predestination. The people were very stoic. There was no laughter. There was no singing. There was no dancing. It was very serious business. They believed all people were going to hell and that God would only allow a select few into heaven. One day, John and his wife Eliza met another minister. His name was James Rowley, who was from a different tradition. Born in 1722, Mr. Riley preached that God loves all God's children. God does not play favorites, and that everyone in the universe had the opportunity to go to heaven. He said, salvation is universal. John and Eliza soon decided that they too believed that salvation was universal and not just for a select few. Now imagine this, a preacher who is committed to predestination begins to change his mind. When John returned to preach at his church, the people said, have you been talking to that heretic, Mr. Rowley? John and Eliza said, why, yes, we have. Mr. Murray, you stay away from him, said the people in his church. I will not, said John. Yes, you must, they said. Soon, none of John and Eliza's friends were talking to them anymore. John and Eliza were told to leave the church he served. Then Eliza delivered a baby. The baby got sick. Then Eliza, his beloved wife, got sick. John borrowed more and more money to pay to heal his wife and his baby. Sadly, both the child and his wife died. Now John had no income to pay his debtors, and he was thrown into jail. While in jail, he vowed, I'm done with this faith. I will never preach again. And when he was released from jail, Eliza's brother paid bail to get him out. He was so depressed, he considered suicide, and he decided to go abroad instead. He bought a ticket on a sailing ship named Hand in Hand and set sail across the Atlantic Ocean. He was headed to New York, but the wind blew the ship so hard, the ship landed on a sandbar off the coast of New Jersey. To lighten the load, the captain took some of the cargo off the ship and put it on a sloop. And a sloop is generally a boat with one mast. So they put all the cargo on this smaller boat. And the captain asked John Murray, hop on over on that boat and kind of watch over the cargo, if you will. So John got on the sloop. And remember, the sloop was still going at the time, even though the large ship had blown on a sandbar. The funny thing is, the next day, the wind picked up, and the large ship went on, and the sloop got stuck on the sandbar. So John Murray climbed over the side, walked on the sandbar into town to get provisions. He met a farmer. The farmer invited John to his house for dinner. As they dined, this farmer, his name was Thomas Potter, told Murray about a building he'd built in his field. Potter said, I have been expecting you for a long time, Reverend Murray. We have been meeting, many of us, for 10 years. And much to my friend's surprise, I built a little church out in my field. And I told them one day a preacher would arrive. They thought I was nuts. You are the one I've been waiting for. No, said Murray. No way. I told you I will never preach ever again. Potter would not relent. So the two finally made a deal. If by Sunday that boat doesn't move off the sandbar, if the wind doesn't pick it up and move it on, you're going to preach in my church in the field. And Murray said, if it will quiet you, if you will stop talking to me about it, okay. Well, guess what? On Sunday morning, September 30th, 1770, the wind did not change. John Murray delivered his sermon in the church in Potter's Field. He preached about a loving, caring God. He preached about universal salvation. Now, modern universalism, the belief that a loving God would not sentence anyone to eternity in hell, now it has its roots all the way back to early Christianity and the Gnostics. Here, the hopeful message surfaced in a humble church in a farmer's field. Murray said, you possess only a small light, but uncover it, let it shine. Do you think it fortuitous that the song that went with our announcements this morning was like This Little Light of Mine? That's right. Very much a John Murray message. Afterward, when Murray experienced the warmth of the people who heard him speak, he was changed. He realized he had a community of people who wanted him. That week, the wind did pick up after that sermon in the church in the field, and Murray left for New York. Later, in 1779, in the town of Gloucester, Massachusetts, John Murray became the minister at the very first organized Universalist church in America. So if somebody says to you, Unitarian Universalist, isn't that a cult? Isn't that New Age? No. We're much older than 1770. But in the United States, in America, North America, John Murray is considered the father of Universalism. You can currently stay at the Unitarian Universalist Retreat Center named Murray Grove in honor of John Murray, who decided to preach again. Now, that little church is gone, but there is a Murray Grove there where it used to be. As an aside, John Murray later remarried a woman here in North America. Her name was Judith Sargent Murray, and she herself was a very powerful person, a voice in early Universalist movement here in America. This is a true story. People say all traditions have a folk tale that might be questionable whether it's true or false. This is a true story in our Unitarian Universalist movement. And there are so many aspects of this story to sit and reflect on. Like all great stories, it presents points of reflection for many of us today. For example, when were you shunned for your beliefs? When were you overcome with despair? And who, what, or where did you turn to become your new destination? Like John Murray's 2 attempts to get to New York, when his life had a way of guiding you in a certain direction, when were you guided whether you wanted to go or not? Like John Murray, to what will you allow yourself to finally say yes? Yes, I can ask for help. Yes, I can concede that I might be wrong. Yes, other people are seeing something in me that I didn't know existed or that I had decided to close myself off from a talent or a gift. Yes, I can change. I can find new ways of doing things, such as pointing my phone at a barcode and getting the order of service on my phone instead of printed. Yes, I can try new ways of doing things. Will you say yes to opening your heart, to trusting others, to transformation of old assumptions, to trying new things, to be more comfortable with change and different ways of being in this life? Will you too, in moments of deep despair when you worry about what's happening on the political front in our local and state affairs, will you have faith in humanity's ability to collectively create change for the good of all? And if and when possible, will you be part of that change? Blessed be, and may it be so.